Ready to troll. Okay, rather than try and explain to you what I've done with emails, I thought this little short video would be easier. This is a piece of wood from a tree. But please take note, because there's going to be a question period and test at the end of this video. Okay, seriously. Obviously some of the stuff I'm going to tell you, right, is, you already know this, but it's for guys that have never built one before. Okay, the first thing I do when I'm building a wood stock is I take my board, my piece of lumber, whether it's walnut, whatever, and I square all four surfaces up. That is, that face, that face, that face, and that face.
How do you square it up?
How do I square it up? How do I square it up, or how do other people square it up?
How do you
I square it up in a milling machine. Okay? Most guys would have to do this on jointers and planers. If you can't do it yourself, take it to somebody who can do it. It's worth spending a few bucks to get it square. If this part and these sides are not square, your crossbow will never shoot straight, regardless. It just won't. Okay, then the next thing I do, after I've got everything squared, I don't worry about the ends because they're not important as this part. This is your most important part of the crossbow. I then mark out my shape of the stock that I want. I do that either by hand or from a template that I've already got, which is i.e. that. This is just a rough template from mid-8. Okay? I then mark out where my trigger latch is going to go and my prod mounting is going to go. And I forgot to tell you something before I start. I make the prod and the mounting before I start on the crossbow. And I also make the trigger before I start on the bow itself, or the stock itself. Now, the reason why you keep it square without cutting out the stock, you do not cut out the stock till the last possible minute. The reason for that being is it's far easier to machine parts of the stock than when it's in a square form than it is when it's shaped. And when it's shaped like this, it's almost impossible to get it dead square in a machine or do work on it. Well, not impossible, but it makes it difficult. Then the next thing I do is I mill my bolt groove. Now, if you use just plain wood stock, you just mill a slot out, yes, you can do that. But wood moves. No matter what you do to it, it will move. If you know, you can put all the sealants you want on it, but the stock will move. So what I do is I mill, I cut a groove out. I either mill or you can use a router to do this. You cut a 1-inch or whatever material you got size out of the center of the stock. In this case, this is Delrin. And you fit that as accurately as you can fit it. And then, as you can see, I've screwed it into the stock. So I've gone through the stock into the dowel ring, making sure you don't go into the center groove, obviously. I then find the center of my stock, i.e. the center of that. I then mill or rotor a slot for the groove, the bolt groove. It has to be deep enough to clear the fletching you're going to be using. Also, it has to be the right width to allow the diameter of the bolt to sit properly. I'll explain that to you in a minute. Once I've done that, I then cut this front section out to make the prod. I machine out a 1 inch by 1 inch, or it actually depends on, it's not critical to be an inch. This is more than an inch. 1 inch groove by 1 inch deep. I then fit a piece of dowel ring in that slot. And this makes the barrel inert, and it also gives the string something very smooth to slide on. I machine out the slot for the mounting. Now I machine it to the depth of that pencil mark along the prod, which gives me the center of my knock. Okay? The reason for that being is that when I got the string on, I have drag from the string works out half the diameter of the string drag, which gives me sufficient control over the string and bolt. Also gives me maximum power from the bow. The only problem with that being, of course, is that if you don't put the bolt in right and you create what they call a dry release, you can break the bow. So you have to be very careful on that part. Okay, you can see that this part is machined out. This is so the bolt can pass through, obviously. These grooves here is to cut down on friction on the bolt. The whole barrel is not needed. It just needs support back and front. If you cut this out, you get a little more speed out of the bolt, and it goes off a little more smoother. And the important thing is when I go to make my nocks on the end of the prod, I have a measuring tool that fits in the barrel so that I can mark it like so, the other side so. Now my knock, now I know the nocks that I make are dead center with the center of the barrel. That is the most important thing on the crossbow, is that groove. Everything comes off of that groove. This is still one piece of wood. I haven't cut any stock shape out yet. I'm still marking it so that I know where I want to put things. You see there's a bolt here, a bolt there. 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, these screws hold the trigger mechanism in place. And when I cut the groove for the trigger mechanism, I make it something like a 64th larger than the width of the trigger mechanism. The reason for that being is that you have a little bit of latitude to adjust the claws left and right. Gives you a little bit of fine tuning capability.